Imagine the tolling of church bells on a dark, rainy morning back in 1992. It sets a pretty haunting scene, right? Well, welcome to this explainer on a case that absolutely gripped a nation. We're looking at a 28-year-long legal saga packed with allegations of murder, massive systemic cover-ups, and the incredibly long, frustrating arc of justice. We are diving into the tragic death of Sister Abhaya, a 21-year-old nun who was found dead in a well at the Pius X convent in Kottayam, Kerala, on the morning of March 27, 1992. For nearly 3 decades, this case twisted and turned through the Indian legal system like a giant puzzle, and today we are going to break down exactly what happened, how this sprawling investigation actually unfolded, and what the evidence finally revealed. So right off the bat, you have to ask yourself the central question that defined this entire saga. Was it a tragic suicide or a meticulously planned cover-up by some incredibly powerful institutions? Because for years, the initial investigators, meaning both the local police and the Kerala Crime Branch, they just closed this case as a suicide by drowning. Nothing to see here. But as we peel back the layers, you'll see that the physical evidence, the witness testimonies, and the ultimate findings of the Central Bureau of Investigation, or CBI, they told a profoundly different story. Let's zoom in on the physical state of the convent kitchen on that fateful morning. When Sister Abhaya was discovered missing, the kitchen was in absolute disarray. The refrigerator door was left wide open. There was a water bottle spilled all across the floor. And get this, one of her slippers was found shoved under the fridge, while the matching one was later found outside, right by the well. To make matters even more suspicious, a nun's veil was trapped underneath a door that had been locked from the outside. Oh, and an axe and a basket were just left behind. Look, these are textbook, undeniable signs of a struggle. Yet, despite this incredibly eerie scene, the local police initially just brushed it off and ignored all these glaring indicators of a physical altercation. The gap between that early police narrative and the actual scientific evidence was just staggering. While local police swiftly and conveniently ruled it a suicide, the official postmortem conducted by Dr. C. Radhakrishnan blew that theory wide open. His autopsy documented 6 distinct homicidal injuries sustained before death. We're talking severe blunt force trauma to the head and serious lacerations. Plus, a local photographer named Varghese Chacko, who the police actually hired to take photos of the body, clearly noted nail marks on Sister Abhaya's neck. That indicates a violent struggle long before she ended up in the water. Forensic experts later confirmed that there is absolutely no way those specific head injuries could have been sustained just by falling down a well. Now, the sheer length of this investigation is hard to wrap your head around. From March 1992, the case bounced from local police to the crime branch, who, as we know, also ruled it a suicide. But public outrage spread like wildfire. An activist named Jomon Putin Parako formed an action council, and alongside the pleas of 67 nuns, they kept the headlines coming and the immense public pressure alive. That relentless, decades-long advocacy finally forced the courts to hand the case over to the CBI in 1993. But even then, it took 15 more years and 13 different batches of CBI officers before breakthrough arrests were finally made in November 2008, which eventually led to the trial and verdict in December 2020. 3. That is a crucial number here, because that is the number of different final reports the CBI submitted to the court in 1996, 1999, and 2005, and the courts rejected every single one of them. Why? Well, because the CBI essentially said, yes, it was indeed a homicide, but our hands are tied. We can't identify the killers because the crucial physical evidence had been deliberately destroyed. Initial investigators were formally accused of tampering with the scene, and incredibly vital pieces of evidence, like Sister Abhaya's personal diary and the actual clothes she was wearing, just mysteriously went missing or were altered completely beyond recognition. And, the destruction of evidence totally didn't stop in the 90s. Fast forward to 2007, the CBI subjects 3 primary suspects to narco-analysis, basically truth serum tests. But when government technical experts actually analyzed the master tapes, boom, they uncovered a massive sabotage effort. Invisible hands had allegedly manipulated these tapes using professional dissolve techniques to create legal loopholes. Check out these numbers. Father Couture's 32-minute tape, sliced up with 30 different edits. Father Puthrikal's tape had 19 edits, and Sister Sephi's, an 18-minute tape with 23 edits. The audio literally didn't even sync with their lip movements in several places. So based on all these years of digging, the CBI finally pieced together a truly chilling reconstruction of that morning. According to their charge sheet, it goes like this. 4 a.m. Sister Abhaya wakes up in the quiet dark of the convent to study for a pre-degree exam. 4:15, she makes her way down the hallway to the kitchen for a quick drink of water. It was in that exact unfortunate moment she allegedly stumbled right into Father Thomas Koltor, Father Jose Puthrakale, and Sister Sefi in a highly compromising position. The shock of that discovery sealed her fate. Fearing that Abhaya would expose their illicit relationship, total panic set in. The CBI alleged that Sister Sefi blindly grabbed a firewood axe and violently struck Abhaya on the back of the head. Then came the cover-up. Believing she was dead, or maybe to silence her for good, the three accused allegedly dragged her unconscious body outside, lifted her over the edge, and dumped her into the well while her heart was still beating. Now, with physical evidence meticulously destroyed, this case had to rely heavily on witnesses. And here is where we meet the absolute wild card of the entire trial, a man named Adaka Raju. Raju was actually a local thief who, by pure, unbelievable coincidence, had broken into the convent grounds that exact night to steal copper plates from a lightning arrestor. He stated in court, and I quote, "I sat on a cocoa tree waiting to scale the wall. I saw two persons climbing the staircase on the rear side. And crucially, he explicitly identified one of those men in the darkness as Father Thomas Couture." But what really makes Adaka Raju's involvement so profound is what happened to him next. 2 weeks after the murder, the crime branch arrested him. According to his testimony, police officials brutally tortured him and offered him massive, life-changing financial bribes. They promised a lifetime of security for his family if he would just take the fall and confess to murdering Sister Abhaya. It's a classic David versus Goliath scenario. You have powerful, corrupt investigators trying to bury the truth, opposed by a humble thief. But Raju demonstrated unshakable integrity. He flat out refused the money, refused to falsely confess, and he stood firmly by his testimony for 28 years. His honesty literally became the immovable cornerstone of the prosecution's entire case. The prosecution also brought forward some deeply controversial medical evidence regarding the third accused, Sister Sefi. The CBI alleged that in order to conceal her illicit relationships and artificially present herself as a virgin, essentially trying to destroy the entire motive for the murder, Sister Sefi underwent a surgical procedure known as hymenoplasty. The trial judge even noted that while stuff like this is highly unusual in a normal court of law, in a case absolutely spiced with allegations of sex and murder, where the relationship was the core motive, this medical deposition was admitted as a highly significant piece of evidence. Actually securing these convictions, though? It was an extreme uphill battle. Over the decades, the pressure on witnesses was just immense. During the trial, 8 key witnesses turned hostile. Even Sister Anupama, Abhaya's own roommate who initially told the CBI she saw the abandoned slippers and heard strange noises, she completely recanted her statements in court. But the prosecution kept pushing, rapidly building an undeniable circumstantial wall. A neighbor, Sanju P. Matthew, testified he saw Father Couture's scooter parked at the convent at 11:45 p.m. that night. And a social activist, Kalarkot Venugopal, testified that Father Couture had explicitly confessed to him about having a husband and wife-like relationship with Sister Sefi. 28. Look, this number is really what defines this story. 28 years of waiting, 28 years of protests, of action council meetings, of rejected CBI reports, and of a poor thief refusing to let powerful people buy his silence. It took nearly 3 decades of perseverance for the Indian judicial system to finally cut through the destroyed evidence, the hostile witnesses, and the alleged systemic cover-ups to actually reach a conclusion. And that conclusion finally arrived on December 22, 2020. The CBI Special Court in Thiruvananthapuram definitively found Father Thomas Couture and Sister Sefi guilty of the murder of Sister Abhaya, as well as the destruction of evidence. The very next day, they were both sentenced to life in prison and handed significant financial fines. Now, it is worth noting that the second accused, Father Jose Puthrakale, had actually been discharged from the case a few years prior in 2018 due to a lack of direct evidence tying him to the act. But for Couture and Sefi, the 28-year wait had ended in a guilty verdict. But wait, because just when it seemed the book was finally closed, the legal system took another sharp turn. In June of 2022, the Kerala High Court intervened. The court decided to suspend the execution of the life sentences for both Father Couture and Sister Sefi. They were granted bail, subject to furnishing a bond of 5 lakh rupees each. So this allows them to be released from prison while they formally challenge the trial court's conviction in their ongoing appeals. Which brings us to today. It's a pretty profound irony, isn't it? In a case involving spiritual leaders and powerful institutions, it was the unshakable honesty of an admitted thief that ultimately pierced through decades of systemic cover-ups and destroyed evidence. But with the convicts out on bail and their appeals still winding through the higher courts, we really have to ask ourselves, is the arc of justice for Sister Abhaya finally complete? Or is it just taking another long, unpredictable turn? It's a striking reminder of the fragility of truth and the ultimate heavy cost of fighting for it. Thank you so much for joining me to unpack this fascinating explainer, and I'll catch you on the next one.